mommies. Use this if you want to smell like daddy.
You never had to question if you were a man, so why give your money to a corporation that doesn't know if their products are made for men? Try Jeremy Razor's hair and body products. Jeremy shampoo and conditioner are made with tea tree oil to naturally clean and restore your hair and scalp, argan oil to soften your hair and not your masculinity, and aloe vera to moisturize the hair and scalp. It's all paraben-free, sulfate-free, phthalate-free, and most importantly, 100% woke-free. Not to mention, it smells amazing. Go to jeremyrazors.com and use my special code BURNS15 to save 15% off. That's jeremyrazors.com. Use my special code BURNS15 to save 15% off. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Business Talks. I am your host, Chawanne Burns. In this episode, we are going to discuss Chicago immigration crisis. Mayor Brandon Johnson he gave a press conference maybe 2 days ago, and he blamed his immigration crisis, his illegal immigration crisis, on right-wing extremists. Not the federal government, not hey, because we're a safe haven for asylum seekers, not I don't have enough budget in our program for us to be asylum seekers. He's blaming white wing extremists. And he claims, he went on this whole racist rant. He claims that these white wing extremists don't believe that Black people should be free. They don't believe that the Civil War was won. This is his whole rant. Instead of saying, hey, we mismanaged this whole process, he blamed right-wing extremists. Anywho, so we're going to get into it. And there's a scathing response by his own residents. His own residents, Black people, give a scathing response. And you probably haven't heard this yet because it wasn't on the news yet, but I found this video on X. Also, we're going to talk about George Santos. He came before Congress today, before they voted his expulsion. And if you don't know about George Santos, he's been a liar probably since birth. I call him the talented Mr. Ripley. He lies and he steals. He's a representative out of New York, I think Staten Island, and he is a Republican, a gay Republican. I guess he cross dresses in his spare time. But anyway, instead of him saying, I'm going to bow out or whatever, of course he said, oh no, I'm writing out. I'm not going to bow out. I'm not going to quit. And then he brings up a resolution to expel Jamal Bowman, the guy who pulled the fire alarm. I agree both of them should be gone, but come on, dude. That's like the pot calling the kettle black. So we can't make this up. This is what we're going to talk about all on today's episode.
Something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bap. What? This is what you call a bap. Something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bap. What? This is what you call a bap.
Yes, let's get into it. Like before, if you enjoyed that intro music that you just heard, not the countdown music, Dwayne Mansell said he had to mute the other music. You don't like that techno music. Anyway, if you like the music I just played, that's from Matt Torrance. He is one of our viewers. You could go to scoresomemusic.com. He could compose some music for you, whatever your tastes or needs are. He can write a piece specifically for your needs. That's www.scoresomemusic.com. Let's get into it. Okay, we have Dwayne Manziel, KD. Dwayne, you said I'm a 66-year-old Republican right wing. Nah. Yeah, I mean, they're calling, I think anybody that's Republicans now, they're calling you right wing extremists. It's like, no, I know how to think. I have my own thought process. I don't go where the wind, if they say it on the news, I actually use my brain and process the information logically and make the decisions or come to the decisions if I agree with it or not. So, and this is an epidemic that we have right now. That's why we're so divisive in this country. That people that think differently than you, if you go against the grain, you're an extremist. So, and whatever they're trying to push in the media, you're the extremist. Anyway, let's get into what I'm talking about. And we're talking about Mayor Brandon Johnson. He's claiming that all his problems, all the immigration problems that Chicago is suffering right now, is because of these right-wing people. And it's very, very sad that he thinks that way, because you're the mayor and this is what you're preaching to anybody who listens. And it's a bunch of bull s. It's a bunch of bullshit. Anybody that's listening to him, I haven't met anybody who said they're like an extreme supporter of Mayor Brandon Johnson, but apparently this lady out here, in this corner behind him, she must loves him, but I don't know who else loves Mayor Brandon Johnson. Anyway, we're going to get into it. I'm trying to rewind it back to when he was talking crazy.
By empowering our new neighbors to find work, housing, and more in our great city, we're investing in a collective, brighter future. I'm grateful that the Alderman of the 6th Ward, Alderman Will Hall, is with me today. And thank you, everyone who has already stepped up supporting this mission. In this moment, you're bringing people hope.
Before the speech before that, he's basically saying he's calling it a unity initiative. So I guess certain churches agreed to house some of the immigrants, and then they have one district that agreed to migrant or house illegal immigrants. And so now they're going to question. And one of the questions was, how do you feel about taking the resources from the people that's already been here, that's in dire strain for resources? And you're pulling resources from the people that really needs it to house migrants or to accept migrants.
Yeah, thank you for that question. First, let me just acknowledge I'm grateful that Reverend Jackson has found his way to the west side of Chicago. Thank you, Reverend, for being here today in grand fashion. I've said repeatedly, and I've mentioned this when I was running for mayor, that no one should lose at the expense of someone else winning. My message has been pretty consistent. There are families who live in Chicago who have, particularly Black and brown folks, who have experienced austere budgets, school closures, mental health closures, public housing shutting down, jobs being lost. And for many of these families, they recognize that they have a leader in me that's going to invest in people, because that's what I promised that I would do. And too often, we have a zero-sum operation where the wishes and desires of people are sacrificed or given to someone that quite frankly, doesn't have the same motivation, right? And so too many budgets before where Black and brown folks were sacrificed to benefit corporations and austere budgets. And what I've simply said is this: those who live in Chicago, and those who who've had the benefit of living in Chicago, that I am still committed to investing in those families. And those who wish to call Chicago their home, we're committed to investing in them. My message has been clear and consistent.
The problem with that is your message is not clear and consistent. Because why in the world do you have all these black folks, Mexicans, Asians mad at you? The people are not lying. So you're telling me that you have enough resources to go around to everybody or for everybody. But you're shutting schools down. And we're going to see a video where one of the ladies said they shut 50 schools down in Chicago. They had a black flight in Chicago because they stopped giving out city vouchers for housing, for subsidies. There are no more affordable housing in Chicago. So you're telling all these black folks that you have enough resources to go around, all the while that you're shutting their schools down. You're trying to turn their community centers into migrant shelters, and they're leaving the city because they can't afford to live there. But when Venezuelans come in from Texas or wherever they busing them from, you're saying, "Oh, we got enough resources. Come one, come all. We have enough room to put you up. Here's some subsidies. Here's free rent. Here's free food. Here's housing. Here's free education." And then you got your black people, and you supposed to be black, starving on the corner. 65%, I believe they said 65% of the homeless people in Chicago are black. You guys throw a lifeline. Let me know if I'm going in the wrong direction.
Oh, I had a follow-up. I'm sorry. And can you talk about why beginning construction on the base camp in Bright Park before we've seen the environmental report about what sort of any potential contamination or threat could be posed? Why do it that way?
Well, this is the way we've been doing it. I haven't veered off from my mission. Look, the international crisis that I inherited 6 months ago, I've made it very clear that we are going to make sure that we remove people out of police districts, women and children who are living on floors and sleeping outside, that we're going to create spaces that provide more dignity. As we have assessed throughout this entire process, we have continued to build along with that assessment. And so for every assessment, for every test that we put forth, it sets us up to take the next step. Now you're going to have a full report of this national guideline for environment. You'll have that by the end of the week.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
What would you want to see from the border deal that's being discussed in Congress? And would you want some limits placed on the flow of migrants from other cities and states?
Well, it has to be better coordination. What we've seen is a very raggedy form instituted by right-wing extremism. Everyone knows that the right-wing extremism in this country has targeted democratically ran cities. And quite frankly, they've been very intentional about going after democratically ran cities that are led by people of color. And
You're not getting all the migrants. We get about 250,000 migrants, immigrants, illegal immigrants coming across the border monthly. You only got 100,000 of them. So where are they going? New York is saying that they got a problem. You don't see people in Detroit crying because we're not a safe haven for, like, we're not accepting them. You don't see people in St. Louis crying. Does St. Louis got a black mayor? I'm not for sure. But in Detroit, he's not black, but he's a Democrat. You don't see him crying. And we're not getting them. San Francisco. Are they getting in San Francisco? That's a black mayor. Are they a safe haven? Probably so. You don't see them crying. You're the only one. You and Mayor Eric Adams is the only one. Wisconsin, I think they get some people in Minnesota or whatever. But you're talking about targeting uh, Democrat cities with black mayors. And you only got, out of this whole year, probably 1% of the total. So what are we saying? And if I was the governor of Texas, I would do the same thing. Anyone that, if I see safe haven for migrants, you will get a busload of migrants daily, or they will be divided up between whoever said they're a safe haven. And I will keep on sending them, because it's not the governor's problem. It's the federal government problem. And you see he got a lot of pushback, and I'm talking about Greg Abbott. He received a lot of pushback because he tried to initiate some laws in the state. And I don't know how effective it will be. He was trying to use the police force to like arrest migrants and return them back for the border, or to the border, or even fine them. But I don't think that's going to be effective. But he received pushback. So tell Joe Biden to handle it. It doesn't make any sense.
And their whole motivation is to create disruption and chaos, because that's what that particular party has been about. Right? This is the same political party that did not want to accept that President Obama was actually an American. It's the same Republican right-wing extremism that stormed the Capitol. It's the same right-wing extremism that refuses to accept the results of the Civil War. It's raggedy. It's disrespectful. It's mean-spirited. It's an unclean spirit, quite frankly. And so I got you.
You're saying all this to say what? I mean, I believe there are some right-wing extremisms, but you're telling me Greg Abbott is a right-wing extremist? You mean to tell me Greg Abbott is a right? Now, he might be Southern, but right-wing extremist? Come on now. This is what he wants to put the blame on other people, like Republicans versus Democrats and progressive. No, just think logically. If the border problem is controlled by the federal government, if it's controlled by the federal government and not Greg, and it happens to enter into Governor Abbott's domain, which is his state, he essentially has to handle the problem. It's literally his problem. And so how he could mitigate his problem is to ship them out to somewhere else, so everyone in the United States could bear the brunt of not just his problem.
I just want to make sure that people understand what we're facing. That's why it's so important that the faith community is leaning in this moment. And so what I've said, there has to be better coordination. Look, Pastor Will Hall, who's also an alderman of the 6th Ward, visited the border. He saw the chaos firsthand. And so part of our effort to go to the border was to make sure that there was better coordination with the flow of migrants who are seeking asylum here. And this is not unprecedented. When the Ukrainian refugees found their way to the shores of America, there were 30,000 of them right here in the city of Chicago, and you don't hear a word about it because it was coordinated. There was federal dollars that were attached to those families. And so, to your question, yes, it has to be better coordinated. As far as limitations, we have to have parameters that respect the dignity of families who want to call Chicago their home. It is abysmal, and it's an affront for everything that is good about this country, for the extremism in this country to use people as political tools to settle political scores for something that happened 400 years ago. They're still mad.
So you're saying that Greg Abbott is settling a score that happened 400 years ago. Why can't it be just, hey, we got an influx of immigration, Border Patrol is not really patrolling the border. We've seen videos where they're assisting people that's crossing the border illegally, and the Border Patrol is helping them, you know, go through the barbed wires. And then you've seen AOC, or we've seen AOC cry foul when Governor Abbott, wanted to put those barbed wires in the water so they won't be able to cross. But you're saying Greg Abbott is somehow getting revenge for slavery, and he wasn't even alive then. You guys make it make sense. I'm trying to make it make sense. This white man, the governor of Texas, I lived in Texas before. I ran into some people that was real extreme in Texas. But for the most part, people were cool. I didn't get hung in Texas because I'm still right here. You see what I'm saying? It's like, make it make sense. You're saying he's righting the wrong from slavery? Instead of just being logical about the situation, saying, hey, our federal government dropped the ball, and Greg Abbott is probably being a bitch. You could probably call him, oh, he's being a jackass and he's sending people. But why? If you was the governor in Texas, wouldn't you say, oh, it's 49 other states. Wouldn't you say, let's ship these people out? Why should they all come to my state just because I'm on the border? And you said you was an asylum seeker or a safe haven for asylum seekers. You put it's on your bio. If you guys go to chicago.gov bio, they have this whole page dedicated to asylum seekers.
That a black man is free in this country.
I want to rewind that.
To those families. And so, to your question, yes, it has to be better coordinated. As far as limitations, we have to have parameters that respect the dignity of families who want to call Chicago their home. It is abysmal, and it's an affront for everything that is good about this country. For the extremism in this country to use people as political tools to settle political scores for something that happened 400 years ago. They're still mad that a black man is free in this country. This is nothing new. But aren't you glad that the soul of Chicago won't be broken? And those are the words of, I think, Beyonce. You won't break our soul.
What this message of fear. So now people that are, on the borderline of saying, oh, white people are all prejudiced. This is, if they listen to this, they probably think, if you go down to Texas and Greg Abbott, ever meet Greg Abbott, he probably don't like black people. You don't know nothing about the man. But you're saying Greg Abbott is getting revenge from slavery because he don't think black people should be free. I mean, this is crazy. You just blatantly calls anybody racist because he says, I don't want to be the only one that's bearing the weight of illegal immigrants crossing the border. And why should the people that live in his state bear the weight of that? He got to look at reason why they elected him, because of something that he did, a proven track record. So he has to look out for his own people, his own citizens of Texas. So what's the problem? and you're crying because you got about 100 and something thousand residents or illegal immigrants. And he probably got about 2-3 million in his state that you don't even know about. You just mad about the 100,000 that's coming to your city. Stop it with the madness. He needs to stop it. And I hate it when I see people just claiming that somebody's racist and they just doing their damn job. Like he's just doing his job. He's protecting his state, which he should be. Because your federal government doesn't want to take control of the border. He could write anything in office. What is it called? Executive order, just like Title 42. He could extend that executive order. Okay, you don't like Trump, whatever. You don't like his executive order, write your own executive order. While Congress get their self together to pass something. But Joe Biden could write an executive order. But no, they want an open border policy so all these immigrants could come over and vote for Democrats. They could give them a free ID and vote Democrat and tell them, remember who let you across the border for free? Remember to vote blue. There was a scathing response to Mayor Brandon Johnson. Even though he tried to pull the race card, black people didn't fall for it. They tired of this bullshit, this race card bullshit. They tired of it. Black folks are tired of this race card bullshit that you be pulling. So let me get to some of your comments. Nurse Petty, how's it going? Thank you for joining us. Teresa Fox, Ron DeSantis is sending those people to Chicago. He's not working. Wrong about that. He's correct about the right-wing nut jobs. KD says, Teresa, why do you think he's a nut job for sending them to a sanctuary city that welcomes them? Yeah, yeah. In a couple of years, the Dems will have a couple million new voters. They probably already got 10 million right now. But you know what? Most of the times, if you do a survey around like Mexicans, Venezuelans, they tend to be really conservative. Once they wake up, like Cubans and stuff like that, they tend to be very conservative. So they'll wake up, they'll probably vote blue for the first cycle. Then they start waking up and seeing what's going on. And they'll probably start voting Republican too. Because right now, it's really extreme on the progressive side. It's almost like socialism is really tied close to communism. And that's what they're escaping from that. So, anyway. Nurse Petty, homeless people still sleeping on Lower Wacker Drive. Chicago has homeless people that are currently living on the street in tents, and they haven't been offered these amenities. Exactly. You don't even offer the people that's sleeping outside, that's American people. You don't even offer them the same amenities that you offer illegal immigrants. And some of these guys that's sleeping on the street, or women that are sleeping on the street, some of these people are veterans. They served our country. And you give them a hard time about getting mental health services. You give them a hard time about getting medical service. They got to jump through hoops just to get help. And these are Americans, American people. Anyway, let me just go to my profile. Now, I follow Nas. Nas is really he's real pro black. Yeah, you know. If you don't know Nas, he's the rapper. He's a lyricist. Not new school. He old school. He actually can rap. If you don't know him. Anyway, I don't know who don't know Nas unless you don't listen to rap. You might not know him. So Nas post this up on his feed. He says it's happening, y'all. The sister was speaking raw truth. She's literally corrected herself in the moments. She went from saying migrants to illegal foreign nationals. Real Black Americans in Chicago are done with the open border. Democrats mandatory verify, and it is. It's open, and we're not supposed to say anything about it. We're supposed to be like, oh, we accept everybody. No, it's okay to be selective. We don't have to accept everybody. That's okay. You don't have to do it. This is the pushback. She's responding directly to Mayor Brandon Johnson. And I believe this is at Chicago City Hall. That's what they got it on here as.
This morning I heard Mayor Brandon Johnson say that the sentiment in the black community is waning. A lie. The sentiment is not waning. We are not okay with you taking our resources and giving them to people who don't live here. As Mark stated before, you are preparing housing for them. One of the reasons that the city of Chicago was able to close 50 schools was because of the black flight. And the reason we had a black flight was because there is no affordable housing in this city. It is because the city of Chicago shut down the voucher system so that blacks who needed to get affordable housing could not. So they had no choice but to flee to other states. But now you found money for the migrants.
That's right.
We're calling foul. And then another thing you said was that the faith-based leaders were helping to bring around the sentiment. We haven't paid attention to faith-based leaders since Dr. Martin Luther King. And guess what? We're not listening to them now. We understand that they are bought and paid for. We understand that you control the narrative that they are trying to speak about.
She is really speaking the truth. Faith-based leaders, they have their own agenda. You know, they are bought and paid for. And actually they lead their flock to destruction. Some of them. I'm not going to say all leaders are like that, but some of them. And you find a lot of them in the church, especially the black church.
So let me just say this to you. We're not listening to them the same way we're not listening to you. What you're doing is not okay. And let me just say this other thing. Emerson Park is still closed. And our mayor has decided that because we didn't support migrants coming to our park, we just ain't gonna have a park. I call foul, Mayor. You love to stand around and talk about how you're a black man. That's all you are, is a black man. And we know that all black folks ain't skin folks. And those of us who didn't know that, you're giving us a great lesson. So we thank you for that. No, the sentiment has not changed. We are still for black people. We are still for this city supporting us. We're still for black people getting the same set aside that these migrants are getting. Oh, excuse me, not migrants, because what they are is illegal foreign nationals. They are not migrants. They are not coming here illegally. So just because you put lipstick on a pig, it's still going to be a pig.
Yes.
So we are not backing down. We were quiet for a minute. I know you thought that the sentiment has changed. It has not. And like I tried to remind people, not only did I support Brandon Johnson, not only did I campaign for Brandon Johnson, not only did I give him my money, But I want you to know two things. Number one, I'm not a fan. I have buyer's remorse. Number two, for any independent candidate in the city of Chicago, any Green Party candidate in the city of Chicago, and any Republican candidate in the city of Chicago, now is your time.
You hear that?
Because we are done with the Democratic
That's
Party.
right.
Brandon
Right.
Johnson,
Done.
Governor Pritzker, and President
Done
Biden
with it.
have showed
Done
us
with it.
what they think about the black community all over this country. And so we're standing here today to say, okay, if that's what it is, we with it. We don't have to support the Democratic Party. Right.
We shouldn't support. We should have left a long time ago. But I'm glad she's saying this. People need to start to wake up. Now, people in Chicago feel some certain type of way, but the problem is if it's not, this message is not reaching to the people that are not affected by illegal immigrants. So maybe something else would get them to wake up and smell the coffee that the Democrat Party is not for black people. It never has been.
We don't have to continue to support people who are not going to support us. And the Democratic Party here in this city, in this state, and in this country is not supporting us. You got the Republicans on one side and the Democrats on the other side. Guess what? They're part of the same bird.
That's right. With two wings.
So it doesn't matter anymore which party we go with. But I'll tell you this, I'd rather deal with the snake that's outfitting himself of the Republican Party than the snake that's covered up in the Democratic Party.
That's right.
We're not going to continue to stand for this. We're not going to continue to allow our state representatives, our congressmen, our aldermen, and our mayor to let us know that we don't matter.
Yes.
Just like you're going to show us that we're going to matter, we're going to show you.
All
It's going to
right.
be a great day in the city of Chicago when a Democratic convention comes here, and then they found out in March that a lot of black voters took Republican ballots.
There you have it. You got a lot of black folks mad. A lot of black folks mad at Brandon Johnson. A lot of black folks mad at the Democratic Party. And what can you say about that? You can't say, oh, she's overreacting. No, she's not. She's not. I mean, literally, we've been giving Democrats the vote for about 60 years now. And what have you got for that? You don't got nothing to show for that. You got a bunch of baby daddies. They gave you some abortions. Your man ain't working. You don't own anything. But you've been voting Democrat for about 60 years. And Brandon Johnson think everyone is kumbaya. He thinks he has, or he's trying to paint a picture like he's for the people. And he's not. He's not even for his own people. KD said he's a clown. He is. That B.O.B. needs to come to visit Texas. He can't go against the administration. You see what happened to Eric Adams. Yeah, Eric Adams, he got some lawsuits against him because he started to speak out too much against Biden. Send Kamala out to tell them don't come. Kamala, she's not coming. She's not going nowhere. I don't even think, has Kamala visited the border? No, I don't think Biden's visited the border either. So they're not going nowhere near the border. But you know who visited the border? Yeah. in about 30 minutes. You know who have visited the border? Donald Trump. Donald Trump, he's been at the border. And he's not even the president. He sent 2 aldermen down to tell them not to come to Chicago. Nurse Petty, you're from Chicago. What part? Okay. I don't know why my Miller says, Miller Iversons, those migrants get free phones, tablets, bus passes, free food, and most are in the hotel living free. I don't know if you know this, Miller. This was a couple of weeks ago. I showed you guys a video where they had this tent built in New York, and they bust all the people that was living in the hotel. They was like, okay, we're going to transition you to your interim housing. And it was this tent, but this tent was heated. It had like a cafeteria, it had showers, so it was one of those fancy type tents. They didn't want to stay there. They said it wasn't good enough. They wanted to go back to the 4-5-star hotel, the Roosevelt Hotel that they were staying in. So we got to be mindful. We're saying that these people are coming from a war-torn country. Are they really? Or they just saw a sign said, hello, come to America. We give you free education, free food, free rent, free subsidies for a certain amount of time until you get up on your feet. They wasn't escaping nothing. They just decided to come over here to drain up all our resources. KD said it took her 40 years to realize that. Never voted, but will for Trump. Bill said, I never voted, but I'm voting for Trump. Okay. KD, those churches are getting a lot of money from the city as well as perks. It's all about the money. Yeah, you know, the church, they ain't doing nothing. They're not doing it for the love of Jesus Christ. They doing it for the money. Alicia Mack, hi Chawanne, I'm from Detroit, now living in California. Okay. I have been saying for years that what these illegals were going to do. They have taken over our Black communities, are now mostly Hispanic. Yeah, they're taking over. And now you are no longer the minority. You are the minority. Hispanics are the majority. So that's the Democrat Party is going to be like really trying to appease them. They don't really need to appease the Black people because we still got 80% of the Black people haven't woke up during this trance. They'll vote Democrat till they die. So that's that. Now one thing I want to mention that this what is Amundsen Park, that district, I think I'm pronouncing it right. They had a news conference where they were saying that they were glad. I guess they had to sue Mayor Chicago for stopping the migrant shelter being put in the park or in that area. They literally had to sue Mayor Brandon Johnson and the city of Chicago to stop them from doing what they were planning to do. So, but I think Mayor Brandon Johnson, he's removed from society. Now we're going to get into our next story. our talented Mr. Ripley, George Santos. He was up for, let me just pull it up. He was up for expulsion, and he gave a speech, and instead of him like, hey, I'm just going to sit out, I'm not going to try to uh, combat this. I'm going to give up my seat. He said he's going to write it out. And this is him. This is him saying he shouldn't be expelled. Stop it. You trying to It's a farce. I mean, I don't know if you guys tuned in last week. We had like 15 different things that George Santos lied about, and about 7 of them he was charged for. He currently has 13 indictments. He was actually convicted for stealing people checks. This is prior to him being elected. And I still am questioning, how was he able to run for a representative, because I think he's from Brazil. So maybe he's American now, but he's Brazilian. He was born in Brazil. And he was there as an adult. He's literally the things that we viewed last week. They said he was charged with a crime in Brazil around like he was 18 or 19. And basically that's why he's here. He's probably still wanted in Brazil for all we know. And I give him one for acting. Right now, it's called deflection. Yeah, we know they're not. You're saying it's a waste of time. I said it's not a waste of time because you're a liar. You're a liar. You're a cheat, and the truth ain't in you. So how can I even take anything that comes out your mouth of value? I can't trust you. because you still for veterans. You set up an organization or coordinated with an organization to save puppies, and you stole puppies to sell at this organization. Then you stole the money from the organization. You set up a GoFundMe account for a veteran's dog that was dying of cancer, and the veteran did not receive the money. How low can you go? Can you go any lower than that? And you want us to take what you say as value like you're not a selfish person. You're talking about you work for your constituents. Who cares? Why are you in this predicament anyway? Because you a liar and you're a thief. Reason why he's facing counts of the DOJ or whatever they want to question him. These indictment charges has to do with his campaign financing. He said he made a certain dollar amount, or he contribute a certain dollar amount, and he kept on amending this report. Either has to do with campaign financing fraud because you actually didn't put the money in, or you're trying to evade some type of taxes somewhere. We don't know. I don't know why would you do that. You went from, hey, you put in 5 or 800,000 to 500,000. Now you're saying, oh, I only put $100,000 in, and you took it out as a loan. How can you get 800,000 and $100,000 mixed up? That's a vast difference. So who cares if they told you to testify on the same day that you had to be in court? In court for what? Now you got some other court case that nobody knows about? Woe is me. You know what? He's just pissing me off. Nothing he's saying is of value. You guys put in a chat if you want to hear more of this crap. But I can't listen to him. I can't listen to somebody just you're whining saying, "Oh, I will have to be in court," and then you're whining again saying, "Oh, I had legal fees." Legal fees caused by yourself. You sound like yeah, a brat, a selfish person, because you caused the demise on yourself. This is not a political witch hunt. Now, we could say Trump we could say that's a political witch hunt because he's being attacked because he's the front runner, being attacked by his political opponent. Some people might not agree, but you got to say, hey, this doesn't make sense. Now, with George Santos, nobody knows him. We only know you because of the bad things you have done, not the good things. Nobody would have ever known your name if you wouldn't have been in the news for lying all the time, saying your family died in the Holocaust or survived the Holocaust, and your mama died in 9/11, and she died 5 years afterwards. Anyway, so that's George Santos. He's trying to say, don't expel me, and I'm not going to step down because he has more work to do. That's what he's saying. But you're such a liar. How can anybody trust you or trust the things that's coming out your mouth? This next video I want to share with you guys. Now he went on this next rant saying, "Hey, don't expel me. Don't expel me. You want to expel Joe Bowman," which, okay, rightfully so. He should be expelled because you're trying to interfere with legal proceedings. He tried federal proceedings, um, pulling the fire alarm, and then lied about it, saying, "Oh, that was I could leave that way." No, well, the fire alarm is on that end, and it says fire alarm, and it's red. So you totally lied. But we have George Santos saying, "Hey, look what he did. He did a bad thing." So it's all deflection. And this happened all today, you guys. It's like, what is going on here?
caused the closing of the Cannon House office building and resulted in the disruption of an official proceeding in the Congress. Now, therefore, be it resolved that pursuant to Article 1, Section 5, Clause 2 of the Constitution of the United States, Representative Jamal Bowman be hereby is expelled from the House of Representatives. Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming out early today. Just wanted to, we all good? All right, cool. All right, good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming out. As you all know, the vote that was supposed to happen today was moved to tomorrow, but in lieu of keeping a schedule, I decided to stay with today's 8 a.m. Commitment to all of you and to the American people. Here's where we are. We are due to go for round 3 of expulsion of Congressman George Santos from NY3.
He thinks very highly of himself. He's just a crazy person. I'm not gonna view this because everything he's saying I don't want to listen to. But like I said, he wants to expel Jamal Bowman. Does he have the right to do that? Of course. You know, he's still in Congress. Is it worth him doing it? I don't know. I just don't know. It's like the pot calling the kettle black. It's like, oh, look at you. Your crime is worse than my crime. It's like, no, both of you guys probably shouldn't be in Congress. Both of you guys are pieces of crap. Let me get to some of your comments. Mike said, Chawanne, you're so right. Eric Adams started complaining about the illegals. Now Biden forced the FBI are investigating his Turkish campaign monies. Yeah. Yeah, they're investigating him because I think he's being too vocal against immigration, you know, and he's actually blaming the federal government because of his problem, because he wants them to take action. Millard says, I know Santos has done some things, but I never see a Democrat being held accountable for their wrong. It's a two-tier justice system in this country. Millard, there's some sketchy things. I covered Cori Bush too. Cori Bush, she's she's never been under investigation. They tried to investigate her for some of her campaign funds and the use of her I guess monies in her budget. And it was mostly going to her husband at one point, and he wasn't really doing nothing. I guess it was like he was supposed to be the security guard, and then they end up getting married. But she used almost $700,000 on security. And when she was questioned about that, Cori Bush was like, "Oh, would you rather me die?" Like, no, we don't want you to die, but do you need to use $700,000 on security? That's a little bit on the ludicrous side. And it's probably more now because this was at the beginning of the year. Anyway, there's a lot of things that corrupt politicians don't get held accountable for. The list go on. I think Democrat and Republicans alike. I think both parties, they do have some corrupt officials in office. If they could do it to Eric Adams, they sure as hell do it to anyone. No country more important than Angola, Joe Biden today. Yeah, Joe Biden is more anti-American. He's the most anti-American president. He funds wars. You see how he took care of Ukraine. Then Ukraine got mad and started crying because Israel and Hamas conflict happened. Then Joe Biden said, "Oh, we need to support Israel and then send aid to the Palestinians. You want to fund Israel's war and then give the Palestinians a band-aid." That's mind-blowing in itself. Very anti-American. But now and then you have this open border policy. And we heard the speech a couple of days ago. He said the greatest threat to our democracy is white supremacy. No, the greatest threat to our democracy is your open border policy, Joe Biden. It's not white supremacy. Anyway. There's a lot of reason to be hopeful in 2020. Joe Biden, January 4, 2022. I don't know what that means. Alicia Mack, I was done with Santos when Trump helped him win the governor. Santos then talked about Trump bad during the primaries. Santos, he goes where the wind takes him. He's a liar. You know, he holds no loyalty to no one. He tries to make himself look important. As you can see, he's trying to make himself look more than what he is. But he's such a liar. And like I said, I call him talented Mr. Ripley. If you tell him, oh yeah, I took a year off and went hike across the world. I traveled across the world. He's gonna tell you, yeah, I traveled across the world too, and I went swimming with the dolphins. Like he tries to one up you. Yes, my parents marched in the Freedom March. Oh, my parents was the Tuskegee Airmen. Well, you're Brazilian. That's all. He's Jewish. He says he's Jewish, but he's really from Brazil. Isn't that wild? That's so wild to me. But he's gonna try to one up you. One up you. Andrew, 451 billion a year cost to US taxpayers for Joe's illegals. That's before property damage, death, hospitals, and funeral costs. That's totally correct. And you don't get no subsidy for that. The immigrants come into illegals, come and break into your house, do harm to you. You don't get no protection. They look at you like what the problem is. Anyway, so you guys, thank you for tuning in once again. Very great news. Great news. We've reached 30,000 subscribers. We've reached 30,000 subscribers just before December the 1st. 30K. Let me just share this tab with you. 30K. It was a road to get to 30K, but I appreciate every single last one of you. Let me get some clapping. 30K. So tomorrow we're going to talk about our illustrious mayor, Tiffany Henyard. I get some hate comments and because of Tiffany Henyard. You know, you guys, a lot of people don't think Black people should be covering Tiffany Henyard because she's Black. They don't. You're being anti-Black if you cover someone that's in politics for doing wrong. So I really don't know what to say about that. But I feel if you're in politics, you have the responsibility for your constituents. You have to answer to your constituents. You are supposed to be speaking for the people, doing everything that you do is supposed to be for the people and not for yourself. So if you're doing something other than for the people are going to call you out. Black, white, brown, Mexican, Chinese, it doesn't matter. People are going to speak out about it. And it doesn't matter if the person that's speaking out about it, it doesn't matter the color. If you're doing is right and wrong. Are you doing right or are you doing wrong? So a lot of hate comments, and I welcome them because they help me with the YouTube algorithm. So tomorrow we are talking about Tiffany Henyard. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening. I am sending all my good to you. I will talk to you soon.